Freestyle Union started out just as a jam session. You could come, if you sat in a circle, you had to rhyme. And if you didn't sit in the circle, you had to watch. And it went to a point where, you know, if you rhyme once, a couple lines is fine, but you had to give energy to the cipher. And then after a few months, it evolved, I guess, into sort of a performance collective. There was a 9:30 club before it became the new 9:30 club that would ask us to come in and freestyle. And so we would open up for acts there. So everybody from the Last Poets to Arrested Development to Guru to a whole bunch of different groups. And we would open up doing just a freestyle set on the side stage or the downstairs stage, and it would be like a warm-up show for the show. And what happened was it created a sense of lyrical excellence, a community of artists who were committed to the craft, who were committed to excellence. And eventually, because I was teaching a lot, I started teaching workshops, and I started inviting artists to come teach workshops. So it became something else as well. There's a performance collective and an event, and then there was this educational component to it. And that's how it evolved. It evolved faster than me in terms of my ability to lead a group of young men while I was a young woman, which looking back, that would have been impossible for, I don't know a young woman that could have done that in that era.
Were you the only woman in Freestyle? Were there any women MCs that came in?
Maybe 4, 5 max, 3 at a time, 2 or 3 at a time max. And young men who were a trip, you know, and me and my idealism not realizing, yo, this is too hard. Like this is gonna be impossible to master without a man coming in here or an older woman coming in here to lead this. And I thought, love, and we're gonna be creative. It's a movement, revolution. So it ended up building.
What is that? I don't know that story. What's
It's the other part of the story of there's all this beauty and hip hop love, very classic to the 90s in terms of that purest hip hop passion. But there was also the other side of being a woman in hip hop and a woman who loved this music and culture, and the reality that you were going to have this circle of kinds of men who would perceive you as being that rapper's girlfriend, period, no matter what you've done. Then you'd have these guys who would look at you and perceive any success that you've had to be based on the fact that you wear a skirt. And so not only would they think that, they'd say it to others, and then it would get back to me, that sort of stuff. And I wasn't mature enough. So you had some sort of female privilege because you wore a skirt? Yes. Because you could attract men to... Okay. Yes. The female privilege was present because of the skirt. And then you have the guys who claimed you weren't as good as them. And so you were just getting over because you were a chick, because you were interesting, a novelty of sorts. And at times, I look back at old tapes or whatever, I'm like, I was as good as them, I wasn't as confident. I was just as good, I wasn't as confident. And how could I be confident when I was surrounded by men who I served, created platforms for, who I supported, who then in turn did not support me?
Some critics would say, though, that Toni was feminizing. Yeah. And I thought that was really interesting. And I'm like, what exactly was the feminine part, and why is that bad? So
well, you know what? I could have been, I think in some ways, maybe I was feminizing certain aspects. But I think many men returned after Freestyle Union. Some who didn't support, like when the split happened, who didn't take my side, whatever, who returned years later. after going to umpteen whack-ass battles. And they said, I get what you were trying to do now. I didn't get it then. And as usual, woman makes suggestion. Too often, men hear suggestion. A week later, a month later, a year later, 2 years later, for some a lifetime later. And so there's that space. But yeah, what it was is because that feminism accusation came because there was a no battling rule. That's where that came from. And I remember in the early days of Freestyle Union, I was on panels, and there were cats who would like wait to just challenge me on this hip hop. There's a tradition of battling and blah, 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 and they go on and on. And finally, an elder, a couple male mentors, older male mentors who were poets said, don't argue, you can't outshout a shouter. You're a woman, and you can use your womanly voice, and you can say, it's a cipher workshop, it's not a battle. If you want to experience a battle, you should go to a battle event. Cut. And so I started using that or whatever, but then there was still the closed spaces, the private spaces, where I did have to debate this idea. I realized when I was very young, these fools don't know what a battle is. And if you go to battles, particularly now, 90% of the dudes battling do not need to be on the mic. Half of them can't even rap in the pocket. They don't understand the concept of flow and articulation and delivery. They can't. They don't get it. They don't get it. And so that's what.
This also comes with a sense of entitlement. As a young man, you can skip that part of actually honing your craft. But I can just get in here by default of being a man.
Yeah.
Being a boy.
Yeah. And then with Freestyle Union, the reason why the battling I stopped it was because it killed the vibe. So as soon as it was a circle of people, 25, 30 people, as soon as these two people are going against each other, no one else is included. So if you have a group of artists who come together to create together, and only, let's say out of 30, only 2 are creating, what's in it for the other 28? Nothing. So why should they come back? Why should they want to be there? And why should they want to bear witness to you and what it is you're doing? And that was one thing. The second reason why I stopped it, usually the person who started the battle was not that good. So the most talented people don't start battles. They don't. Unless they're young, stupid, and immature. That's different. It's like a little puppy, a pit bull. But they get trained, and eventually they don't do that anymore themselves. Right? And so we allow the little puppies, you bark, whatever, and then shut them down. So whether it was me or another girl who needed to shut them down, or whether it was 2 or 3 of the highly skilled guys, let them bark a little while and then shut them down. Shut them down and give them the rules back in their face. Here's the ground rule. Stop battling. And so I think the artists who came regularly, they got it. And because they were there to build their skills. They weren't there to compete against anyone other than themselves.
What about if someone says, and maybe you've heard this argument before, that battling innately leads to you building your skills because you're shut down or you see where your weaknesses are, what have you?
I think that's important consideration, okay? In the right space. If you are coming to a collective experience, right? In a collective experience where people are coming to freestyle and get open, the intent is to get into another zone, to go into another plane. You cannot get into the other zone collectively if you're focused on someone other than yourself. You can't go to that space if your focus is that. If you're not centered and grounded in this, it ain't happening. So what you create might be clever and entertaining, but it's never soulful and sincere. Ever. Ever. So after I've been entertained for 5 or 10 minutes, I'm now bored. You can't carry someone with entertainment for a whole hour by yourself with just rhymes. But you can carry them if you can touch their soul.